Our next guests are a couple from Castle Rock, Colorado. Brian and Cindy Malone own a small business outside of Denver, and like many of us in the room, we're growing more and more frustrated by the state of politics in the nation and in the state, as well as their own hometown. So they made a movie about it. You've heard a little bit about this movie already today, but they made a terrific film called Patriocracy, which, as we've discussed, is premiering about 8 blocks north of here in another couple of hours, and we look forward to many of you joining us there afterwards. But we're going to have a brief conversation with the filmmakers to find out what it was they were trying to do and what led them to make this terrific piece of art. So we're going to take a quick look. Let's have a look, and then we'll talk with Brian and Cindy.
The candidates themselves spend millions on commercial airtime.
I'm running for Congress to fight for us, to stop an out-of-control, intrusive government that strangles small business.
Conveying their ideas in 30 seconds is challenging and is sometimes questionable in authenticity.
Ed Perlmutter is different.
Hi, what's on your mind?
You just got to hope that the people have, BS detectors and can eliminate half of it.
Anybody who's got half a brain knows what bullshit is. You can identify it in a minute. You get it here first, not up here. You're looking, and the guy looks so sincere, telling you that he's saving you, fighting for you. He like this, passion, fighting for you. Violin music in the background.
And you know what? They heard us, and yet they ignored us. And folks, on November 2nd, they will ignore us no more.
I'm Ken Buck, and I approve this message.
Just holler, bullshit, and let it ring through the land. That can be our credo. We may make it if we can do that, because everybody of any sense or status in life knows what bullshit is.
If I could just start out with the basic question, why did you make the film?
You start with that.
Okay. The reason we made the film is because we were always yelling at the TV, saying this isn't right. No matter what side it is, no one can get anything done. I mean, we have, and another reason I have to say, Caitlin, age 13, Carissa, age 7, our 2 kids, our lovely daughters, who bicker amongst each other like siblings do, and then when you watch TV, sometimes you think it's the same thing, and we're getting about as far as our kids are when they argue amongst themselves. She looked at me. No, I didn't. Yes, she did. No, that kind of thing. And so, out of that profound frustration grew this movie, and we didn't realize it was going to be as big as it was when we started. We learned it's a journey. The film is a journey that we learned a lot about as well.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was a really great experience for me because I learned a lot through the process. I went in there kind of with some preconceived notions about Congress and Washington and why things were bad, and similarly to the panel, what they had said about coming back. And the more they change, the more they stay the same. We kind of came back to full circle, but with a much deeper understanding of why things are the way they are. Is money a contributor to the polarization? Absolutely. But now we really deeply understand, I think we feel we deeply understand the reasons why, rather than just kind of the surface yelling heads like we were a party to earlier on.
So Brian, I get you to expand on that. What did you find the most surprising? I mean, it sounds like you some of the preconceptions that you had going in, you left behind as the project unfolded. So what were some of the most surprising things that you learned?
Well, I think the most surprising thing that I learned, and I'm almost embarrassed to admit it now, that there are some really good people in Congress. There are some very good people in Congress. And I went in there, honestly, and I will tell you this, with my camera in my hand. Mr. Malone goes to Washington. It's just me and my little one-man band camera and lights and a backpack and a microphone, walking up and banging on doors in the Senate office building and the House building, and going in there with this notion that I'd, rip them a new one. Why are you guys tearing this country down? And honestly, when you get to know them and you get to know what they're up against, boy, you sure get a very different view. And I think that's something that's maybe symptomatic of the entire country, is that we just don't understand each other as much. And we don't really understand, I think, as a country, what the members of Congress are going through right now. A lot of members of Congress, and I learned this through making the film, are essentially held hostage by those special interests who may hold this not so invisible threat against taking them down in their own districts, as are pointed out in a case in the film. And that's something that was new to me. I never realized those forces were out there to the degree that they were out there. So,
well, and another thing we learned too is that every single member of Congress in the Senate they're the most hardworking people that you will meet. Unfortunately, they work really hard at raising campaign funding. That's why they work in Washington 3 days a week, and then they come home and work the other 4 days. They travel Mondays and Fridays and are at the same time are making appearances, dinners, fundraisings, and things. And the system requires them to do that. None of them want to sit there and raise money and go to all these little dinners and fundraisers and all this stuff. But that is what they're required to do if they are going to stay there. And if they don't do it, someone else will do that.
And I'll tell you this, actually, Mickey actually has a great line in the film that for any of you who were here earlier in the morning or missed Mickey's speech earlier in the morning, he has this great little bite in the film that leads right into this social panel we just had, and it's just that nobody wants to raise money. No one wants to spend their time raising money. It's the lowest thing on their list of things to do. But because of the way the system is structured right now, that's what they have to do. And if that element was taken out of the equation, boy, we'd sure see a lot better quality out of our representatives and our senators, and we'd probably have a lot better progress in solving some of these problems that we all face.
So it sounds like you learned a lot about it, and the film does an effective job of sort of diagnosing the problem or identifying some of the pressures our representatives are living under and that are causing these problems. What do you hope viewers of the film get out of it in terms of what we can do, what ordinary citizens can do about these issues?
Now that's an easy and very difficult question to answer. The easy answer is I will quote my dad, who's kind of a John Wayne Republican, who I don't always agree with, but he did have a good saying, and that is, get off your dead ass and do something. And participate, I think, is what we're trying to talk about. That's the easy answer. It's also the difficult answer. You need to participate, and participating is very difficult, especially when we are in a culture that we expect this customization, like the social panel was talking about, and we expect things instantly to be handed to us. It's a lot of work mentally to use our brains and step up and actually research the issues that affect our lives, read the news stories from different sources, and know what those sources are before we make a judgment. And that's really, I can't believe I'm saying that, that's a lot of work for this culture. And I think we have to hit that and face that head on in the mirror before we can get beyond any of these solutions. We have to come to a reckoning with ourselves that, geez, we need a lot of work. Simpson says, we're the greatest nation in the world. We need to live up to that as citizens. I think a lot of it comes down to the will of us living up to our own citizenship.
Well, and in our film too, Senator Mark Warner from Virginia said, and it's at the very end, and he says, the electorate will get the representation that they demand. And if you don't demand much from them, then, then that's what you're going to get. And I hate to put it back on yourselves all the time, but it is. I mean, we're busy people too. I mean, I'm a PTA mom. I have 2 kids, and we run our business and everything else. But you still have to take the time. And if you do want to communicate with your representatives, senators, whether it's at a local level or the national level, federal level, don't just go to them with problems and say, I'm sick and tired of you doing this, and blah, because they hear that all day long. And as a mom, I know what that's like. Mom, you did this. Mom, you didn't do that, But we need to be a little bit beyond that and saying, I understand that you are for this issue. Give them a thoughtful feedback, and maybe point out some solutions that you think could be done, instead of just going to them and saying, the system's broken and I hate this and I hate what you stand for, blah, blah. That is going to get you nowhere, because then that puts them on the defensive. So if you do have something to say to them and you are very concerned, make sure it is a thoughtful, informed statement, and go and say, I understand why this is happening, but please, we need to change this, and it can be changed maybe this way or that way. This is a thought from someone who is paying your salary, who you are up there for, a constituent of you. So.
And just one little thought on that. If you're thinking about just zipping off a little zinger of an email, or calling up and leaving a voicemail or a message with the aide who's working at the front desk or the intern, I would just save your voice and save your fingers, save your carpal tunnel, because that doesn't really get you very far. It maybe makes you feel better venting, but I will bring up a humble little notion, and that is the art of letter writing, something that has been long gone. But if we take the time to sit and handwrite a very thoughtful letter, your letter will go to the top of the heap, because while everyone else is just zipping off those quick little zinger emails or texts or Twitters or whatever, your letter, your thoughtful handwritten letter, is going to get read by your senator or your congressman or congresswoman. And chances are you'll have a much greater impact.
Well, I would just point out that the stamp that you use to send that letter will also help keep the Postal Service
That's right.
Solvent. So that'll be an added benefit for the country. So it's I'm hearing that a lot of the message of the film is about engaging citizens, trying to increase civic engagement, get ordinary Americans motivated to connect with their representatives and express their voice to their representatives in Congress. And I guess my last question is how's the rollout of the film, how's the reception of the film been, and what are your plans to try and get this message out? Obviously there's the premiere here in New York, and the film will be playing here in New York for the next few days. Tickets are available, and but I'm sure you want to get this out to a much broader audience. So what are your strategies, and how have you been received around the country?
Well, I will tell you, it's mixed. We've generally been ignored by the Hollywood industry. It's not one of those kind of films, I guess, that's really one of those great blockbuster films. There's a great documentary film company called Magnolia Pictures that produces all these great important social and political documentaries. At least that's their slogan on their marketing line. But I got a meeting with the acquisitions director of that film company, and he said to me, "Brian, I think your film is very important. I think every American should see it, and I think it's one of the most important films of the year, and that's why it breaks my heart that we will not be distributing your film." And he went on to say that although I agree with your film, getting people to the theater is going to be like getting Americans to eat their vegetables, and we don't think that we are going to do it from our marketing standpoint. It doesn't make good marketing sense. So that's kind of where we are. We're in the traditional Hollywood model. However, I will say this, there have been some really great responses. Cindy has been working with the executive director of the League of Women Voters out of Washington, and they did something just brilliant. They put out a little email announcement in their newsletter that said, hey, if you want to screen this film, it's an important thing, it's kind of in line with our subject matter, this and that and the other, come out and support the film, or hold a chapter in your church basement or your library or wherever. And Cindy has gotten over 50 chapters of the League of Women Voters. I don't know what happened to the lights. Maybe hit light number 1 there. There you go. Thank you. Has gotten over 50 chapters across the country from New York to Hawaii to pick up the film and to play it in their church basements and in their libraries. And that's where this film's going to take grow some legs. And there's a great organizations in here, all who I'm going to be secretly pitching after the thing here to try to get everyone else to start picking it up, because honestly, that's where the real power of this film is too. It's not going to be at the theater. It's great. I hope you guys all come. Maybe we'll get some of our money back that we spent on them. But anyway, but really, what it is, it's about getting people engaged on that real grassroots level. So
Yeah, I mean, everywhere we've gone that we have physically been able to be there. We live in Colorado. There was a screening. There was a screening in Denver, Boulder, Fort Collins, and everywhere we've gone, we've had a packed theater, and people have really responded to it. I mean, it's something that is on. Yeah, we have a Q&A. Sometimes we have a panel discussion afterwards, and everyone is so excited. They're so glad we made the movie. And I have to say that I think part of that is we come from a journalism background, like a Walter Cronkite style type of journalism background, which I'm sorry to say, I think it's kind of disappearing with all of the different media outlets. But so we were as objective as possible, and it's not. And our motto is, it's not our job to tell you who to vote for. We just want you to be more informed citizens when you do go and vote. And if you're fed up with the corporate, all the special interest stuff, well, maybe then you can stop shopping at some of those corporate places that donate large campaign dollars to candidates that you don't agree with or don't think they're going anywhere. So, but we tried very hard, and that's what separates our film from a lot of almost every other film out there. Is it's very as objective as a human can possibly be, and that's what we think, because that's our job.
It was called Strenuously Nonpartisan by the Village Voice, so that's the best thing they could say.
Yeah, and we really are trying very hard to do that. Because you can get, any kind of thing you want. You can get a very conservative view, you can get very liberal views, and we didn't want to do that. We wanted to be as down the middle as we could.
Well, I think all of you will enjoy the film, and I think in the interest of moving things along, I'm going to wrap things up without giving the audience a chance to ask questions of the filmmakers, but you would have that chance after the screening this evening at 6:15 or 8:25, because you're lucky enough that they will both be there, and we'll be glad to engage with the audience after that. So again, Brian has some tickets, and we encourage
Thanks,
you
guys.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.